Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery.
Hello, and welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast with Jersey Ed. Wait, there's no Jersey Ed this week. So podcast, no Jersey Ed, but you're stuck with Bleep, Beth, and Buckeye Bambi, my co-host, the super host. Okay, so today we are talking about spiritual principles, and we're so lucky to have Rob with us, and today we're going to cover the spiritual principles of step 10, 11, and 12, and yeah, so let's get into it. Rob, how are you?
I am doing awesome. Thank you, Beth.
Thanks for being with us. Aren't we lucky, Bambi? This is good stuff.
I love it when Rob joins us. So,
yeah.
Rob was my toughest counselor in rehab. I have to just get that out there.
Shut the front door. I didn't know he was your
cry.
I didn't know he was your counselor.
Sob. Well, he wasn't my specific counselor, but he was one of the counselors. But had the hardest assignment in the world. I sobbed the entire day afterwards. And I still carried that paper that I wrote in my purse today. That's how impactful it was.
Dude,
that's awesome.
That's
so
big.
He's nice now, but I hated him back then. I love him now.
I've evolved. It's all because of the spiritual principles.
Oh my God. I had no idea that was how we got blessed with Rob. I did not know that.
That's how you got blessed with me, actually, because Rob and Ed worked together. So.
Oh, wow. So many things are clicking.
I see all kind of fireworks going off over there.
Yeah, dude.
It's like Stacy got me into treatment. So
Stacy got you into treatment, and then Ed hooked you up with Rob.
Well, Rob was one of the counselors there. So
yeah. Oh, wow.
That's hooked me up with Friends in Recovery. So that's the whole cycle. So.
Oh, and now I'm out here, the outlier as usual, trying to get you to go to live meetings.
I did.
You went to a live meeting?
I went to a live meeting just because I promised I would. Well, the first time Matt had to work and I was all ready to go, decked out, makeup on, hair done, ready to leave the house. And
you did look
got
beautiful.
An emergency page, so I didn't get to go. But I did go this last week, and it was such a small meeting. It's so funny because the guy says to me, I'd like you to come to our group conscious meeting on Saturday because we're trying to increase our attendance and maybe you could help us with that. And I'm like, no, if I'm going to increase anyone's attendance, it's going to be Friends in Recovery meetings, so.
Oh, that is really funny. So what did you think? What did you think of the vibe?
Well, it was such a small meeting. I don't think I got the vibe. So this week we're going to go to a clubhouse.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always going on at a clubhouse.
That's what Matt said. He said, the clubhouse experience will be completely different. So we're going to check that out this week. So I'll let you know next week.
Yeah, I actually got sober at the Pyramid Club, which was a clubhouse. Ironically, it was also a bar during Prohibition, and they never tore the bar down when they opened the AA club. So it was cool. And they had the original door with the peephole, which was really cool. And it's a funny story because Newton Hospital owned the building. And when AA approached them, they gave them a 100-year lease for free, and gave them the top floor, which is where the speakeasy was. And that's where that is an AA club. So yeah, that's where I got sober. I got sober at the Pyramid. It's gone now. They reneged on the 100-year lease because, alcoholics. Can't blame them.
Right.
So anyway, okay, so here we are. Rob, I can't thank you enough for being here. Why don't you take it away on steps 10, 11, and 12 on the spiritual principles? And I'll butt in with my,
You'll be Beth. All right. Well, again, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you tune in to us. It's great to be here. So we are on steps 10, 11, and 12 after having gone through steps 1 through 9. I don't know that I said it before, but I want to say it now. Really, we're talking about me sharing my experience, strength, and hope as I have worked with a sponsor through all of these steps, and I have taken sponsees through the steps. So I didn't simply read them and decide, let me share some knowledge with everyone about this. This is really my experience, strength, and hope. And one of the experiences and what I've been taught as we look at the steps 1, 2, and 3, they're the foundation. So it's important that I have the foundation. 4, 5, and 6 is the exploration. I take a look at me. And in step 4, we talk about our moral inventory. And then when we get to 7, 8, and 9, we're talking about this healing process that I go through, taking a look at, my shortcomings, how they've affected people. In step 8, taking a look at who is it that I need to right some wrongs. And then step 9, actually making the amends. So it's a healing process for both me and hopefully for other people to bridge the gap from my behaviors. So now we get to 10, 11, and 12, the maintenance steps. It's important for me, after having done all of that work, to now take a look at how I'm going to maintain this spiritual journey that I've been on. I see it as literally my sponsor taking my hand and putting it in God's hand so that I can live a spiritual life. So with step 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And so for me, with looking at step 10, I'm taking a look at, for me, in my experience with it at the end of the day, where did I hurt someone? Did I call my sponsor? Did I call a support? Did I look to help someone, in the day? Did I hold on to a resentment? Was I disrespectful or unkind to someone? And really taking a look at that. Where do I need to make a prompt amends? And sometimes that can actually take place in the day because it's become so ingrained in me and a part of me that I'll recognize it. You know how sometimes you get that little stiff part in your stomach where you've said something wrong. You're like, oh,
yes,
that was insensitive, And so you don't want to wait until, I got to wait until I do the 8th and 9th step again. No.
Nope.
You go to that person and say, hey, when I said that, I was being insensitive, or the way I said that, I was being arrogant. And the way we get to know these specific shortcomings, because we've done steps 6 and 7. And so now with 10, it challenges us to take another look at how am I evolving and how am I showing up today? For me, step 10 is one of the most important steps because I can deceive me thinking I'm the great I am. And so step 10 says, hey, no, let's really take a look at how you've been showing up, what you're saying in these meetings. Are you doing it at home? Are you taking it? For me, one of the greatest barometers of where I am spiritually is when I'm driving. Oh my God. It's me against the world, and so I tend to use that as an opportunity to take a look at, what's really going on with me. Step 10 also for me is about taking a look at what's my emotional sobriety like. Am I really maintaining, a state of peace and a state of calm, particularly when there's conflict or there's been a situation that didn't turn out the way I'd hoped it would? Am I still able to maintain that emotional sobriety, or am I being dismissive to people, because that's one of those passive aggressive ways that I can show up. I can simply be dismissive and give you the, okay, yeah, I hear you. So I can be, very accommodating, and placate people when I'm really like frustrated on the inside. So it really impacts my emotional sobriety. So I often look at with step 10 and the spiritual principle of perseverance in step 10, continuing to do the work that I started. So I want to take a look at, how disciplined am I? Even though the spiritual principle behind step 9 is discipline, I get to bring that into step 10 and continue to persevere and take a look at, Rob, how are you treating other people? How are you treating yourself? Because for real, sometimes the biggest critic is me towards me, not other people.
Yes. True
And
story.
so for me, step 10 is also about showing myself self-compassion. Because I have a tendency to say, you missed the mark here, you missed the mark there, as I go through the inventory at night. And man, you're supposed to have gone through all of these steps and have so much time in recovery, and you're still causing harm. So for me, step 10, it's an important reminder for me to also have self-compassion. And probably the last thing that I often say, it's about paying attention. Am I falling asleep at the wheel is one of the things that I wrote in my book, in terms of what I say my values are and how am I lining up with my values. I say I want to be authentic, but am I now still putting on masks and being fake or phony because I'm afraid of what someone else is going to think or what they're going to say, which at the end of the day, in some shape, form, or fashion, it still ends up causing harm because I'm putting forth my representative instead of showing you the real me, and so you're expecting one person, but I've given you this, version of me that I think you really want me to be.
So it's actually really cool because it's like what I'm hearing is like in step 10, we're being brought to a place of being authentic and in the moment. But if that's not who I really am, then I'm going to wind up hurting others in that process of learning. So taking a step back and being like, oh, that was insensitive. Let me apologize. Like, let me move through. It helps us maintain being authentic and then the real me in this moment with you without the mask. And it also gives me the ability to grow through that and become more authentic and shift who that authentic person is. That's very cool.
Yeah. So I also look at I pay attention to tell myself, I'm a walking contradiction.
All day long.
I want to be this loving and caring person, but sometimes that doesn't show up the way I ideally would like it to. And so that's where the self-compassion comes in, to realize, okay, if I'm a walking contradiction, probably other people are too. So maybe let me consider extending some grace. Maybe it really wasn't about this guy that cut me off, thinking, I know that guy is Rob and I'm going to cut Rob off. Maybe, they're so caught up in their life that that's what they're doing. So for me, again, step 10 teaches me not to only have compassion for me, but for other people.
And it lets you're supposed to tally up in the end of your day, like the good things you've done as well, right? So, I mean, you go through and give yourself credit for the good things, you not just pick yourself apart, which, we tend to do easily, but it's hard to go through and say, hey, I really did that well. I reached out to that person right when they needed it and took the time to answer that phone, or, I picked up an extra meeting, or, anything. We have to give ourselves those positives.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. That's that self-compassion. It's like more of that self-compassion.
Exactly. And, in step 6 and 7, one of the things that I learned about me is I can be, and you've heard me say this before, Bambi, so perfectionistic, so I can be really critical on myself. And again, that's where, like you said, at the end of the day, taking a look at, what, I did do that, well today, or I did show up today. So that's where, again, it's important to have that balance, with step 10.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Are we ready for step 11?
Step
11.
All right. All right. Well, here we go. So we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So for anyone that's listening, man, if you could have heard the discussion that we had prior to coming live, oh my goodness.
Should have recorded it all.
Beth and I were mixing it up, sharing, our perspectives and our experiences, with this step. And I found it really intriguing. And for me, it's what keeps me so passionate about this process, because I get to still learn a different way of looking at it. And, for me, with step 11, the spiritual principle being awareness, there was something that you said, Beth, that I think is worth, making sure that it's said now. When we get to step 11, oftentimes it's understood, interpreted as I simply need to meditate, Eastern, philosophy and mindset. And while the meditation, yes, is what's being asked, we're talking about being mindful.
Yes.
And being aware. How am I conducting myself in the day? And taking time to slow down. For me, it's being present, and that's the power of this step, So we talked about in step 4, we're looking more at a moral inventory, and in step 10, we're looking at this personal inventory. Now I get to take a look at my spiritual inventory, and I get to do that throughout the day. And so, yes, perhaps early in the morning, I may be still, and this is not for everyone, but for me, it is getting quiet. It may be not listening to anything or a guided meditation or something totally different, so it's not so much getting bogged down in, the mechanics of how we meditate, as much as we're focusing on getting still to at least slow the thoughts down, to get them to, a quiet roar is great for me a lot of days. Okay. To not, think about anything is awesome. So I look at step 11 as getting to a place where I'm operating from my divine self, and not so much the ego part of me. And that's where the spiritual inventory for me, really shows up with awareness, because again, this process has been about me learning how to show up as I truly was born to be. And that's this loving and caring and giving man, this vessel that's looking to show up. How can I create love or peace or joy when I engage the world, and starting with me? And so it's more operating from the divine me versus the ego me, and the spiritual, process and journey with step 11 helps me to see, there's your ego again, Rob. You think it's your way, and your way is the right way. And what I find is when I am fighting for my way to be the right way, it creates contention, at the very least, some tension in a relationship, so that's where, am I operating from my divine self, or from the ego? Any thoughts or comments there?
Go ahead, Bambi.
On step 11, the awareness and the taking the time to consciously stop and say, God's will, not mine, be done. That was a big thing for me, because I would come to meetings over and over in the beginning, and I would be repeating the same things because I wasn't, I felt like my spirituality, I hadn't grown very much in it. I was like in the beginning, and one of our members actually sent me a pause necklace and said, every time that you have any kind of emotion, stop and say, God's will, not mine, be done, and pause and take that minute to think, be aware, be present, say, hey, is God going to like what I'm about to text, what I'm about to say, what's going to come out of my mouth, or what I'm going to do? And so to be aware and be present enough to take that time before everything just explodes out of your mouth.
Were you going to say something, Beth?
You said a lot, right? And I'm not writing anything down. I'm like still on the couch 3 weeks later. And but the pause, like you're talking about that pause, you're talking about that emotional person that I choose to be. And where is that in relation to the person that I am today? Right. So that self-reflection, that going in and looking at and comparing and saying, God, what do I need to do to get there? And get that to be the authentic self as opposed to where I am today. Right. And I think that we're doing this through our whole lives. You know what I mean? Like, I am not anything like I was when I got sober. I mean, if I was, I'd be dead by now, but just from anxiety and anger. But I'm not 100% where that person of love and compassion, right? Like, I'm still this human being. And so like what you were talking about, and I think like what you were saying, Bambi, like I think our greatest gift for anybody that is sober, or anybody period, is pause. There's no greater gift than pause, because when we pause, we're acting instead of reacting, right? So we're getting that opportunity to choose, is this the text I want to send? Do you know what I mean? Is this really what I want to say? Is this who I want to see in the mirror? And then move forward or shift. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I really can't add much more to that, but to say, I look at step 11 also as an opportunity to learn how to surrender, like you were saying, Bambi, and you echoed, Beth, to God's will. Instead of sending this text or saying it this way, surrendering long enough to allow something, again, more divine, more loving, more caring, more gentle, more sensitive to intervene into where my ego oftentimes wants to go. And for me, my ego, that false sense of, who I think I am, can so easily be offended. And so oftentimes I'm reacting, impulsively, as opposed to pausing and saying, wait a minute, okay, they said that, it did sting. How is what I'm going to say, going to create value, or is it going to cause more tension and conflict? And that's not always easy, because man, I got to tell you, this journey really goes against the grain of oftentimes what I really want to do, what I really want to say, because I think I need to show you who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know where I come from? Like anybody cares.
Right? Yeah. My boss does not care where I came from.
Yeah. Am I getting to work on time? And am I doing
my job
that I was asked to do?
Right.
Like, am I playing well with others? And
am I running with scissors?
Yeah. And a lot of times I find myself doing that. So for me, with step 11, the purpose that I was really brought to this thing called life is really beginning to come into focus now, as I take a look at step 11, who I was really, really called to be. And sometimes I got to tell you, I look in the mirror and I do say, who is that guy? And you said it, Beth, am I where I want to be? No, but good God, have I come a long way. And thank God for the way the steps are laid out and how we can engage one another so that I can continue to evolve, because I was so selfish, so self-centered, so egotistical, so prideful and arrogant. And truth be told, that guy can show up anytime. So for me, that's where 10 and 11 comes in, because my ego would want to tell me I've been around long enough. So I got this. Let me tell you how it's done. Even with kids, I'm learning even from animals. You guys have animals, but I watch animals a lot, and they teach me a lot about where I am spiritually. Talk about extending grace, especially if they chewed up something. I'm like, oh God, the owner's gonna come home like, Rob, what have you been doing? And they're being dogs. Are you exactly?
Yeah, 100%. Just found this on the floor.
I haven't slept since I brought that cat home. Like, you got to get on board with our sleeping schedule, Buzz.
It's showtime.
I think my the bad parts that come out about 3 a.m. when it hops on top of me, Oh.
Yep. When he tops, right, Lena?
Yeah, my he.
Like, pet me. This is.
Yeah, why aren't you up? Hello, come on. Yeah. We should be playing now.
This is my biggest spiritual lesson right here. Right here.
It's so true. I mean, and there's so many mirrors that I'm finding, to the degree that I'm open to seeing me. Yeah. It can literally be anything, even a song, a commercial. For me, the steps are about freeing me from me. We talk about the freedom from the bondage of self. And again, that's what step 11, is illuminating for me, bringing me to this awareness, because oftentimes I have found myself, if you will, free-ish in recovery with time. Like, I'm not drinking, I'm not using drugs. However, I'm still bound in how I think things need to be, and how people are showing up, and how what you're doing isn't the right way. Am I really free then? And oftentimes I will pause and take a step back and say, live and let live, Rob. Like, it's really going to be okay.
It's already okay.
It really, really is. When you say it like that, Beth, the truth is, it really is okay. And that's where I get to shift my thinking to take a step back and be present, like, wow, everything really is a gift.
Yeah. And it's like, just to go to like people's core, nobody can shift and change when it's not okay and when it's not safe. Right. So it's already okay. Like, I remember I had a sponsee like years ago. She used to text me. She's like, is it going to be okay? I'm like, it's already okay. It's already okay. And you're totally safe to pause, to shift, to do something different. So it's, you know what I mean? It's like in that step 11, like reminding ourselves, or asking God to remind us that we are safe and protected, gives us that freedom to shift and pause, to take a step back, choose something different, try something new.
100%.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. So you think we're ready to move on to step 12?
Mm-hmm.
12.
All right.
Fucking service.
We will wrap it up with service. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all of our affairs, not some of them, all of our affairs. And I wanted to underscore practice, because I get to continue practicing. Continue practicing. This is a process, not an event, Now that I'm at step 12, ta-da, I've arrived, Now that I have gone through this powerful, transformative process, I get to now, from a greater loving place, with a greater sense of purpose of really who I am, I get to serve. To be honest, sometimes in a buddy of mine, in my home group, he says, some of us, we look at service and we look at it as, look at me service, see what I'm doing?
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then some of us, we want to, quote unquote, be humble and do our secret service, do something nice for somebody without them looking, secret service. For me, it's not about judging one or the other. It's simply let's be of service. And even how we're being of service is going to evolve, because I really don't know the time that I share with someone that I was being of service, how that's going to impact them. So I don't want to be so arrogant to think that every time I do something, I must do it anonymously. I get to really be in tuned and in touch with what's going to create the most value, So for me, I get to take a look at, am I willing to be of service, selfless service? Because again, when I came in, it really was about me, and my motives were so different. If I did serve you, trust me, it was about what I thought I was going to get in return.
Self-seeking. Yeah.
100%. And so
Yep.
12 is, showing me that now that we've come to this place, it's not about what I'm getting. It's how can I give to someone else? Because my motives, man, they were so skewed. And there were times when I did serve, it was really to people please. I wanted you to think that I was really a nice guy, that I was really this kind and caring and understanding person. And so, again, it was more of manipulation rather than purely just wanting to help someone else. And I'm not going to say to you guys that, in any one act of giving, that it's ever 100% pure. I'm just giving to give.
Right. Letting God take what, yeah.
The goal. But I don't know that to be, what's actually happening or not. I'm still evolving and seeing things that last year I thought was okay when I was serving, that this year, no, you were serving over there, but you were taking away from maybe, connecting with your mom more.
Right.
Mom is getting older. How are you serving her?
Right. And it's like, and in those, it's like, well, why am I not being of service where I know I need to be? Because, and what is the word that my sponsor uses? What's the benefit? What's the payoff? That's what it is. What's the payoff? So I'm being of service over here when I know mom's aging over here. Like, so what's the payoff? You know what I mean? And is the payoff worth what my self-punishment is going to be by not doing this, right? And then we get to make a conscious decision on what am I going to actually choose, right? Because for me, it's all about the delusional lie, right? The delusional lie that I'm being of service over here to be a good guy, when in reality, I'm being of service over here for accolades, or I'm being of service to prove a point, or I'm being of service to get paid, or I'm being of do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
We're under this delusional lie. And when we look at right through the step process and we wipe all of that away, we wipe away our self-seeking motives, our selfish motives, and our self-centered motives, like it's all about me, or what am I going to get out of it, or I want what I want. We can make a conscious choice, and sometimes it's going to not be mom, it's going to be this, but the whole entire process of going through this book and going through these steps is to bring us to a relationship with a power greater than ourselves. That's the number one, right? So if you buy into the 12-step process, you buy into that you're beyond human aid, right? So the only thing that can help us is God, or I use the term loosely. And so we get this relationship with God, and then the God gives us the ability to be in the present moment where we get to make all of these decisions and choices. But it's this constant, right? So it's that double-edged sword of I'm a walking dichotomy in the fact that I'm, you know what I mean? I'm an alcoholic, right? So in the pit of my core, I'm an alcoholic, and we all know what that looks like. And then like my authentic self is this, like, I'm working towards being selfless, being of service, being humble, being, happy, joyous, and free, being all the promises in the book, right? So it's this constant, like, fighting nature with nurture. Mm-hmm. So it's like, right? So like, where is that really service? Right. And, we've had this debate in my sponsorship group for years. Is there any selfless service that you don't get a payoff from. And we have not come up with one thing that you get nothing out of by being of service.
Yeah. Did you want to say something, Bambi?
No, I'm learning so much. I like it when Beth gets on a roll. So
yeah. No, it's good. And to me, that's what this is about, having the exchange. And like you said, with anyone acting with being of service, is it purely selfless service to the end that, there's no payoff for me? And today, what we're taking a look at is I'm evolving. And today it's more about other people and less of me. Not that I don't get something out of it. However, the lion's share of what I'm doing today truly is about helping you. And for me, again, self-deception is the most dangerous perception. And that's why 10 and 11 is important when I'm being of service, so that I can take a look at who is really showing up, what representative is really showing up. And again, that's why, in step 12 at the end, it says, practice these principles in all our affairs, And so again, we're not simply doing the steps to be able to say, I went over my steps with my sponsor, or to share about them in one of our meetings, but it's really designed to take us out in the world so that we can live a different way. So for me, oftentimes people will say, this is a selfish program. Well, it really is. Step 12 is letting us know it's not a selfish program. It's a selfless program. Now, there's some paradoxes with that. Where people may say, hey, you got to be selfish here. Not to the end of hurting other people, but recognizing if I'm not taking care of me, how can I truly be of service to other people? And if there's a pet peeve that I have, it's that people say, oh, well, you guys say it's a selfish program. No, it really is a selfless program. It's about how can I be of service? How can I give? And, for me,
less me, more God.
Yeah, right. And that's
less
the
me, more God.
transformation. So the steps aren't about me acting better. It's about me transforming and being this divine, individual, and less me, more God, and being loving, being caring, being compassionate, being forgiving, being understanding. And out of that, I'm doing differently and not getting caught up so much with the results, and again, being of service. Sometimes in the back of my mind, there is a result-driven thought process. Like, if I do this, this, and this, and this, man, I'm going to be respected in the recovery community.
And then Joe Schmo comes along and he's like, yeah, now.
You sounded like such a jerk. When you said that way, it really turned me off. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's really funny. It's like the longer I stay sober, the longer I really do believe this. In the original manuscript of the big book, it said the 12th step read as having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We carry this message to others, especially alcoholics, and practice these principles in all our affairs. And I understand through now the traditions why they took that out, right? Because this focus is only for maintaining sobriety. But I really wish they had left it in, because I have to be of service in all areas of my life. And I am sober. Alcoholics are not my whole life. So it's like, for a long time, I walked around like feeling like I was off the hook in public because I only have to be of service to alcoholics. And I know that sounds really sad, but I had 18 years sober before I realized that. Like, oh, I have to not be an asshole outside of this. Right. Okay. So I've been practicing that for a while. So, but you know what I mean? Like, I cannot say it enough. Like, every act of service is going to get me closer to where I want to be. and my understanding now, like you were talking about that results driven, right? Getting away from that results driven has become the destination is the journey. And the only way I can be on the journey is if I'm actually in the present moment, right? If I'm future tripping or past tripping, I'm not in the journey. And if the journey is the destination, then I need to be in the moment. And the only way I can be in the moment is to be with my higher power. And the only way to be with my higher power is to do the house cleaning of all of the steps, right? Straight through and including direct amends, which nobody seems to want to ever do. So yeah, 100%. Like you're making my little bombs going off in my head all morning. Thanks a lot.
This is awesome because again, with everything that has been said, I often like to, share with any sponsees. My experience has been, it's not simply about quote unquote working the steps, but living the steps, living the spiritual principles that are in our steps, because that's what gives us the daily reprieve, by practicing the spiritual principles. And at the end of the day, the daily reprieve sets me up to be the best person that I can be, the best giver that I can be. And for me, that's what it's really about. We often say that an alcoholic or an addict that, is grateful won't drink, and really my gratitude shows up in how am I really giving? How am I sharing? How am I being of service? So for me, gratitude also is not so much about what I do, but the energy that, people can sense with me, the love, it's born out of my gratitude. Like today, I'm not thinking about where I'm going to get that next drink or drug or this behavior, because we can get here and really put people on a pedestal. Well, you haven't, drank, you haven't had a drug. How you living? Are you gambling half of the money that you got for retirement away? Are you eating yourself to literally, paralyze yourself to where you're on all of these medications because I don't want to discipline myself with what I'm eating and how am I eating? So my gratitude is really showing me it's in how I'm caring for me, how I'm loving me, so that I can really be of service to other people. So it's opening up a whole new world for me when I get to step 12, about this transformative process that has taken place. So
it's so interesting that you say that. Like it popped into my head when you were sharing right now. There was this guy, like, recovery and life is not linear. So people have been saying that to me, by the way, since I was 17. And I didn't understand it until like last week. So it's kind of like all like making sense all of a sudden. So it's not linear. It doesn't just go point A to point B. It's like up and down and backwards and all over the place. And there was this guy in AA, and he was a circuit speaker for a long time, and he had like 10, 15, 20 years sober. And he had this like spiritual bottom because he was gambling all of his money, his family's money away, and he was beating his kids. And he like was sober and like realized like, that's what? And like went through the work again and had this like second spiritual awakening that was like brought him to a better place. Like I can't say enough, and I will put this on repeat, which is why I hate getting recorded, because I sound like a fucking just broken record all the time, is that you are not going to ever get to a plateau in recovery. You will have times where you can skate and feel good, and you're like in the fall and the leaves are all pretty and everything. But after fall, the leaves fall and it becomes winter and we go dark and we have to reemerge. So it's like we're constantly in this non-linear, right? I'm finally getting it. Oh my God, I'm going to be 50 this week. And, 32 years sober, and I'm fucking just understanding the word linear. Great. Good job, Beth. That we're all growing through this, right? And it's like, it goes back to like what we were talking about in the beginning, like neutrality. Like, where do I stand on principles and where do I allow myself to step back and learn? Where do I become an elder statesman, right, in recovery and say, this is the process of recovery? And where do I step back and let myself have a new experience? Right. So it's this constant, like, please don't, if you're listening to this and you think that you're doing something wrong because you can't seem to get to this like plateau of just, here I am, I'm just in recovery and I'm just okay all the time. Like that's a delusional lie that a lot of us in the program fall for, because we see people with time, like people see me in meetings, and I have made it my life's mission to tell people how fucked up I am, because when you get over 10, 15 years sober, people see what they want to see, which is this like, oh, look at Beth. She's strong and she's well versed. I can't think of words. That's fucking awesome. So you know what I mean? Right. So she's eloquent and she speaks really well, and she's been married for a long time. She's got 2 beautiful teenagers. Dude, I am so fucked up this year. This has been an awful fucking year. 2023 sucks. I can't wait till it's over, because people need to constantly know that we are all growing, and I still have places in my life where I'm agnostic and I think I know better than God. Yeah, that was
Beth, it's the energy that you portray. Maybe that's what they want, because Rob mentioned energy, and when you were talking, I think yes, but your energy is so good. The energy that you exude when you talk about the program is so, people want that. So it doesn't matter if you're fucked up in other areas of your life. I mean, truly, it doesn't. Not to that person like me who's new, because I just love to listen to you talk, you and Rob both, and just take it all in, because I love the energy that I feel. Yeah.
And for me, Beth, what you were saying, what people see, I can appreciate that you are determined not to let people put you on a pedestal. Because that's a dangerous place, and sometimes when that happens, what it could do is drive the newcomer away, thinking, oh, that's the way I'm supposed to be.
Unattainable.
So I can appreciate, your message, and, along with that, we also get to share with other people, as you have been doing, Bambi, as you've been doing. Let people see our light, that, this is possible a day at a time. And it is not going to be this linear experience. I have found that, and the steps have done this for me, in order to break through in different areas, there's going to be breakdowns. And I want the breakthroughs. I want to be at this plateau and, this evolved place, but I don't want to break down to get there. And to me, that's delusional. That's not realistic.
That's not realistic, right? Nobody wants to break down. Nobody wants to have the year that I've had, but I've been right.
I'm going to ditto that, because this year has sucked.
So just so you know, I want to be like Bambi when I grow up, like fucking for real. But it's like the only difference between me and Bambi is that Bambi looks to people like me who have been through this 100 times and said, go with the breakdown. We've got your back. We're here with you. We're not letting go. And this will become a breakthrough. For me, I have that experience, right? It's a little bit easier for me to be like, well, I've survived 100% of all of my breakdowns. Like, I'm pretty sure I'll get through this one. And I feel like I've met this past year with service where I could. I've met this year with pause where I could. And I have not held myself to this impossible standard, which has kept me from being suicidal all year, right? So all of this, right? Yes, my dog is having her own meeting in the back. But, and Bambi, we're here watching you go through what you've gone through this year. Dude, when all that happened to my husband was like a little stroke, and he walked into the hospital, and like, do you know what I mean? And then we dealt with it, and we got the heart thing, and dude, my world was fucking rocked for a year. My world was rocked, and that was not 2023, and it was not a bad year. So what you went through this year is beyond anything that I've watched any of my friends, female or male, go through in this program. And you have met it with so much faith that it is inspiring to watch the power of God work in your life.
It is the power of God, and it's the program, because y'all, I was so screwed up. That's when I started drinking, was with losses before. And it's like this energy, again, energy inside of me that God gives me every day. It's like, he's got my back. It's like you said, it's okay. It's going to be okay. No matter what happens, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And dude, to watch your husband
like that was bad.
Seriously, like that's messed up.
Yeah, after just losing my brother, because it was like, it was, but I just knew, and it was, and I talked about it, after it happened, but God really carried me through that, because there was one point that I was paralyzed and didn't know how to put my feet on the ground, because my mind was just blank, and God got me up and moving, truly. I mean, I felt like he just said, do this, do that, do this, do that. And that was the most powerful spiritual experience that I've ever had, because it was like someone else was in my body and in my mind telling me what to do to get through this.
And drinking wasn't one of them.
No, never considered
crossed
that.
Your mind.
And that's the miracle that we get to experience, that we can get through the most difficult pieces in life, the most difficult experiences, and not decide that that's the solution.
Right.
Because the solution and the problem, they cannot be the same thing.
It's so true.
and so true. You've made a conscious decision, and it really speaks to what we've been talking about. This is an action program. We can talk about what we believe in God or the program, but literally to walk it out like you have, Bambi, and I don't know all that you've experienced, Beth. I've had my share. This is really about walking it out.
Walking it out.
People say, oh, God, God, God. All you guys talk about is God or higher power. It doesn't really matter to any of us what you want to call it.
Right.
The deal is there's something bigger than me. I know that for a fact. But I still have a responsibility, to walk it out.
Show up.
Yeah. I say suit up.
Show up.
You show up.
One of my best friends, my soulmate, I just talked to her last night, right? She literally says that. She goes, suit up, show up, grow up.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we do this. Like, we just show up. Like, and it fucking happens. Like,
yeah, because some days the best thing that we can do is show up. Sometimes that's the best we can do. Like, we're numbing our brain because of what we've gone through. So the best we can do is make it to a meeting without using. That's it.
And that's enough.
And I cannot say enough, Beth, that is enough, and I get to not be critical and judgmental, with that. So the last thing that I want to say, and I've enjoyed this so much, I, also look at this process as removing all of the blocks that has interfered with me being loving and caring. It's been about removing those obstacles and those blocks, my attitude, my perfectionism. All of those are blocks to love. And if I say I have a loving and caring God, I want to show up as much as I can like that loving and caring God and be that for others. So this has been a journey and continues to be of removing all of those blocks that hinders me from being loving. So with that, I thank you guys again. We miss you, Ed. Thank you, Carl, for all that you do. You ladies did a great job. You do an awesome job. And thank you for carrying the torch of recovery the way you do.
Any last words, Bambi?
No, this has been great. I've loved the spiritual principles every quarter that Rob has come on. I've just learned so much. And truly, I think it's the quietest I ever am because I learned so much during these episodes. I can just sit and take it all in and absorb it. It's great. Love it.
Good stuff. I can't thank you enough, Rob, for coming out and being with us and taking the time out of your busy schedule. My hope is that you will join us in 2024 on some level. I'm sure we can get you in for doing something on a regular basis. Anyway, I hope that you have all enjoyed this show. Ed, get your fucking ass back here with you and your stupid presence going and picking cool things up. Please come back to the show and stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.